United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to the 1 o'clock meeting of the Southampton Town Board of Trustees. I will ask the Secretary Treasurer to call the roll.
Scott Horowitz.
Present.
Ed Warner, President. Chip Marin.
Here.
Joe McLaughlin.
Here.
Matt Parsons.
Present.
We're all here.
All right.
Present.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, just for information, our next trustee meeting will be on August 5th, 2024, 9:30 a.m. work session, followed by our regular meeting at 1 p.m., the general session. We do have a very busy day today with presentations. I see we're going to have some good presentations. So let's get started right on that. First, I have the Village of North Haven. Folks,
Yes.
Zoom is definitely hooked up.
I believe you guys are up over there.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. My name is Terry Diat. I'm one of the trustees in the Village of North Haven. Our mayor, Chris Fiore, will be joining us. He got stuck in the afternoon traffic. And with me this afternoon is one of my colleagues, Chris Remkes, who is on the Water Quality Committee with us. I lead the Water Quality Committee in North Haven as well. So we have a brief agenda that we put together, some slides to guide our discussion. So we have one slide to share with you some of the efforts that we are undertaking with our Water Quality Improvement Committee. What our 2024 program is. And then we want to get right into the discussion for this afternoon, which is around Gannett Creek, and a discussion around potentially adding Gannett Creek to the Suffolk County priority dredging list. So just starting very briefly with an executive summary for those of you that maybe haven't visited North Haven recently. The village is a peninsula that is literally surrounded by water, situated between Sag Harbor Village and Shelter Island. We have 5 major interior water bodies, Gannett Creek being, I think, the largest one, Fresh Pond, Great Salt Pond, Mashima Creek, and Poles Creek. And our water quality is affected by internal factors, probably the same as all on the East End. As well as, and prior to the formation of our Water Quality Improvement Committee, which is in 2022, so just 2 years ago, there really had been no concerted efforts to address the issues affecting water quality in North Haven. And we really have made great progress in 2 short years that our committee has been in place. And so for this year, our committee's efforts have been focused on education and engagement of residents around IA septic system upgrades and the grants that are available to them around those systems. This year we will do a mailing to residents, and we are looking into engaging a shared facilitator to aid residents with those grant applications. Last year, we did do a presentation to residents to educate them on those systems and the grants. And we are also doing some efforts around the impact of fertilization on water quality. Again, last year we had a presentation. This year we have been collaborating with Shelter Island, and we are researching legislation around fertilization, and we'll be putting together a homeowner's guide that we will be distributing throughout the village. We have done a good deal of work around infrastructure projects. We have obtained a grant from Southampton CPF to install a IA septic system at Village Hall. And we have applied for 3 grants this year in 2024 for stormwater runoff improvements around our key creeks and ponds. We have been doing ongoing water quality for the past 2 years with Dr. Gobler and his lab. we have a goal to restore the health of Gannett Creek, as well as Fresh Pond and Great Salt Pond. And we will be working on enforcing the village's code that we have around 75-foot vegetated buffers. So, to segue into the discussion on Gannett Creek, this is an aerial view. Hopefully, let me see if this, oh great, this works. So, maybe not so well on the slide. This is an aerial view of the creek. It is quite extensive. As you, hopefully you can see the water bodies there. It extends deeply into North Haven, and it extends vertically as well, horizontally as well. It is owned by the bottoms of the creek are owned by the village of North Haven. Of course, it is under the jurisdiction of the town of Southampton trustees. It is surrounded, it is a large area surrounded by preserved land. In fact, surrounded by 94 acres of preserved land. Some of it purchased with CPF monies, other owned by the village of North Haven. And is a large secluded natural habitat for wildlife and marine life. So it is quite an important natural habitat area for North Haven. Not only the creek, but the surrounding area of the creek, a large part of the surrounding area of the creek. It is available to the residents of North Haven and the East End to enjoy. There is public access behind North Haven Village Hall that is handicap accessible. And there is public access within what is known as the Stock Farm Preserve and Trails area. And I'll show you that on one of the next slides. The creek itself is an area that we have been using in 23 and 24 for some of the water quality testing done by Dr. Gobler's lab. And in the winter, this past winter of 24, it was also an area that was used for the part of the Peconic Blue Carbon pilot program to grow sugar kelp this past winter with Dr. Gobler's lab. This is a picture of the Stock Farm trails. You can see on maybe the bottom lower right there, there's a little round part of the creek, and the white square is Village Hall, and that's where the handicap accessible area is. I'll show you in the next slide. There's a nice viewing area of the creek. And then you can see literally the trails run all adjacent to the creek throughout the hiking trails. It's actually a very, very lovely area. If you haven't been there, it's worth coming and enjoying the trails. This is a picture of the accessible area behind Village Hall. You can see that there are some benches at the area of the end area of this pier, accessible to the creek. And this is a picture from that same viewing area, and the area beyond there is one of the bridges on the hiking trails that crosses the creek. So getting into a bit of background on the creek and the dredging history. So the creek has been dredged previously by Suffolk County. It was halted after 2013 due to disrepair of the bulkhead, the portion of the bulkhead that is owned by North Haven Point Homeowner Association, although it was still listed in 2016 on the Suffolk County dredging list. And North Haven Point Homeowners Association and North Haven Shores Homeowner Association on the opposite side of the creek have paid for some private limited maintenance dredging since in 2020 and 2022 in order to keep the inlet open for tidal flushing, marine life health, and navigation. We did come last May and have a discussion with this board. And now at this point, the North Haven Point HOA has now completed the repair of the bulkhead. So that's why we're coming back today to have the discussion. And we did want to share that the North Haven Point and the North Haven Shores HOAs have invested close to $500,000 in bulkhead restoration and maintenance dredging over the last 3 to 4 years, since about 2020. And really, that level of financial commitment is really not sustainable for those two HOAs. And at this point now, I'll show you a couple pictures in the next upcoming slides.
So the bulkhead's it's not sustainable in what way?
The maintenance dredging cost.
That level of financial commitment and financial investment is not, they're not able to continue putting in that level of financial commitment.
I mean, they did the bulkhead, they fixed it.
They've done the bulkhead.
And that should last, in theory.
That should last, yes, a good long time, yes.
I mean, there's a lot of HOAs that are facing the same issues with their assets that they own. And as you're aware, the county or anybody doing dredging near bulkheads that are not, they don't have the integrity, it's so risky. Dredging nearby those, so it becomes problematic. So it's good that they address this,
Yes. So the bulkheads now have the integrity necessary to do the dredging. So that should be fine. But the dredging needs to be done again now. So the maintenance dredging was last done in 2022. You'll see in the picture I show you on the next slide, it needs to be done again now. So the maintenance dredging that they've been able to do mechanically is really only holding for 2 years or less. So it needs to be done again. The harbor master from Sag Harbor has told us that the inlet currently is a hazard to navigation in reference to the current nautical charts. So here's a picture from inside of the inlet. You can see that it is shoaled up again. This is a picture of the recently repaired bulkhead on the North Haven Point side. These are pictures from outside of the inlet. On the left-hand side is the recently repaired bulkhead. Both of these are from outside of the inlet. So to continue with the background, the DEC permit is in place. I think probably most of you know that the creek was closed to shellfishing by the DEC in May of 2022. It remains closed. The PEP, just a little bit of background, the PEP Technical Advisory Committee at one of their meetings in 2022, they were speaking about some benefits of environmental dredging. And with decreased water temperature, by removing the source of pollutants, it does improve water quality, and it results in lower residence times, which does correspond to increased flushing. And reductions to residence time can approximate improvements to water quality. So, what we would like to discuss with you today is that we really feel that sufficient tidal flow is essential to improve the aquatic health of Gannett Creek. And dredging, we feel that dredging needs to be performed hydraulically, not by mechanical means, in order to sustainably improve the health of Gannett Creek. And really, since 2013, the creek has not been, had the advantage of being properly dredged for the past 11 years, which has, undoubtedly environmentally eroded in this time period, as evidenced by the shellfish closure. And we really would hope to see this fragile asset not further degrade if we don't have that regular maintenance with the Suffolk County assets, which would afford us the hydraulic dredging resources. So, we would respectfully request that the Southampton trustees petition Suffolk County to place Gannett Creek back on the priority list for dredging.
All right, well, now that you have, the bulkhead repairs and you have the permits in place, and I think that, you gotta meet these certain tests, these conditions, otherwise it, obviously, it doesn't, fit the parameters of the priority. But you've got that now, so we'll take a look at that, all your paperwork, and then when the next round comes up, we'll certainly, add you to the list.
So when would the next round
I
be?
think we're done this year, right?
Done this year.
Yeah, it won't be till next year. They're already, yes, they're already setting up for the fall. They've
Because you have all
we've
kinds
already-
of
it's already,
closures due to flounder and birds and
and then they hopscotch throughout the entire county. They have to figure out with where this is spawning and that's spawning and where these birds are. They kind of make their decisions and figure out. They'd have to be reviewing your permits as well to see when the windows are that's available to do that. So get all that stuff to us. We'll add it on there, and then it's going to be up to them to
the
make.
Army Corps permits as well, correct?
Right.
You
So
got,
get-
the Army, you got to make sure there's Army Corps permits, and then you have to see when the dredge windows are.
right.
Provide James in May 2023 with all.
Okay, so we'll forward them off now that we can assure that this bulkhead work is done, and because that becomes problematic because people like to point fingers and say you've undermined our structure and so forth. So now that that's been eliminated, we'll move forward in the process. It's going to be them, making the determination on what they're able to do on a priority basis, just because we added to the list. And remember, we are also advocating, as is all the other townships as well, other boards and trustees as well. We get a fair amount from the county, and we'll do the best we can. So, it's the best we can do.
We've already submitted our request for the fall and winter dredging of the upcoming year. But I have a couple questions. First off, my understanding is when this inlet was reconfigured, when Mr. Morrell owned the property down there, that there's permits and covenants that you all were supposed to be paying for the dredging in there. It's in the trustee minutes and there's a written agreement. So I don't understand why you're coming for us now when, last few years you've done the dredging, the reason it didn't work is because there was a giant hole in the bulkhead, which we all know, which has been remedied. But,
So
yes, there is.
You probably best.
so I'd like to.
You have to speak.
It's probably
from
best
up
to speak
here.
from the mic that way.
Yeah, so I'd like to address that. So there is a 1952 agreement with Mr. Benjamin Morrell that was signed that says that he or his assignees that purchased the property after him would maintain the entrance to Gannett Creek to such extent as is reasonably necessary. So, that was signed 72 years ago, right? Which was in a different day and age and in a different environmental period, right? And I think, since that point in time, there's a very thick file in North Haven Village Hall that goes back to 1952 and documents that the homeowners associations have been dredging and maintaining the inlet since 1952 for 72 years. And I think, now we have the evidence that this inlet is shoaling up every 2 years, right? And I think that, what we are seeing now is not only is it shoaling up, but we are in a different environmental period where we are seeing that we're doing water quality testing. We're seeing that there are harmful algae blooms taking place. The water quality is not good. We have water quality testing that's showing us that. There used to be, Chris Remkus has lived in this neighborhood. He's lived on North Haven, I think, for your whole life. Is that correct? He can talk about shellfishing, fishing, on North Haven for many years in several of the water bodies, and there's no question that the water quality has significantly degraded. So, you know, we are coming, it is now the village of North Haven, myself as a trustee and Chris Fiore as the mayor, coming to this board asking for the assets of Suffolk County to do hydraulic dredging of this water body so that it can be dredged in a manner that will sustain the dredging quality for more than 2 years at a time. When it was dredged in 2013, and we have the resolution from 2009, I guess, which precipitated maybe that 2013 dredging. It lasted for 6 years, so it was obviously a more thorough dredging. But we're now asking from an environmental point of view to help us better flush the mouth of this so it will help with the water quality, not only navigability, but water quality, because this is a very important and fragile resource, natural resource for us in North Haven. And I think the mechanical dredging that has been taking place that the homeowners associations have been able to pay for with private resources is just not doing the trick anymore. And we want to make sure that Gannett Creek does not further degrade. It's very, very important to us. So that's why we are coming. Yes, the homeowners associations have a 72-year-old agreement, and they've made good on that for 72 years. But we don't think the mechanical means by which that agreement, you know, they've been upholding is good enough anymore for the important environmental, you know, what's important to us from a water quality point of view for North Haven anymore. That's why we think it's very, very important that the hydraulic assets that Suffolk County has, we're asking that it be done hydraulically from now on with Suffolk County.
We can ask the county to look at this, but there's a certain criteria by which they go by, and one of them is public access, and this really doesn't have any public access for the, the people of Suffolk County. I mean, it's very limited for,
It does, though.
Well, let me jump in here for a second. I appreciate you coming here as the trustee. I mean, you want to finish?
I don't want to argue with you because I was one that was instrumental in getting it dredged a few years ago and it became so problematic with the bulkhead not being fixed. Finally, the bulkhead is being fixed. I mean, we can ask the county to look at it, which, we can put it on our priority dredge list for next year. They'll come look at it and they're going to go through certain criteria for which they vet it. And if it holds muster, it'll get dredged. If it doesn't, then, you guys are going to have to provide some more, access for the communities.
But, I mean, do you not feel, the access through the trail, this hiking trail is open to everybody in Suffolk County.
You gotta understand that Suffolk County dredge is primarily for a purpose by which it's navigable, like making it navigable, which we all, for intensive purposes, in order to get your boat in there, it has to be a wide enough canal. Now, there's two problems here. The county dredge program is only allowed to remove a certain amount of volumetric tons of spoil as well. They're restricted by how much they can actually dredge, which could be a problem considering it's a fairly big shoal. Your homeowners association has probably exhausted funds whereby they can remove enough spoil in front of the lead there. I do agree that as far as from an environmental point of view, especially when it comes to shellfish, which is a big concern of the trustees, that more water flush would be beneficial to open these bodies of water up again as harvestable waters for shellfish. Part of that was also in place because the DEC was maxed out during COVID, so they didn't have the personnel to be able to go all the way there, which is kind of a far run from any of the access points in Southampton town. Like the nearest trustee access roads to this water body is very far. So I am in favor of asking the county to to consider putting it on the dredge list, but we're really kind of like, that's kind of where we stop. There's not much more we can do.
But there is one other thing, is on the east side, I believe the bulkhead is in somewhat disrepair again, because we had a consultant come in and, express that they wanted to replace that. Can you address that too? Because, the bulkhead isn't sound, and are we gonna end up with the same scenario as we had on the west side?
Hi, Mr. Warner. So a couple of things in that regard. So the littoral flow of the sand is from west to east, and it's wrapping around the west bulkhead. So the east side really doesn't play a part in terms of the shoaling. However, the bulkhead on, as you can see here in that picture, it was replaced in, I believe, 2002, except for the last 65 feet that stretches out. So we have a permit in place now with the trustees, with the DEC, with the Army Corps, and with the New York Department of State to replace that bulkhead. And that's on the agenda for early this fall. The last permit we're waiting for is from North Haven Village, actually, and they're meeting today at 4 p.m. to approve it. So that will be done early this fall, if not before.
Yeah, because that will incentivize the county to maybe look at it closer, because if there's a failing bulkhead, they're not gonna look at it. But if the bulkheads are all sound and in good shape, then you'll have a better ability to get that done.
Yeah, no, it'll be done.
If I may. I appreciate you coming down here, respect for villages and working with the villages, and process of the trustees putting projects on the priority dredge list where you need permits and dredge spoil sites, and there needs to be merit. There's navigational and there's environmental, as you bring up. We're in a new age right now. And sitting on the oldest elected board in the country with a lot of, process and a lot of, prior practices that have been in existence that are clearly not sustainable today, but in great need for public health and safety. I understand what you're saying about different methodologies that have to be used and the rationale. So therefore, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here and start debating what the county's going to require, not require, think, not think. I think the smart thing to do, based on the fact that you're asking for help, we can't go back in time. They make their plans in negotiating with, all the powers that be over what's spawning where and what's making a nest here and there. You can't go back on that with logistics and storms and breakdowns and everything that the county faces with their program. You got to go forward, right? Windshield's bigger than the rearview mirror, and that's what we'll do. We'll add you on to that. You'll put together all your documentation. We'll provide that documentation and rationale, and we'll take the questions or hurdles as they come together, okay? Because I think at the end of the day, we have similar goals to achieve. So I don't have a problem with that. And if there are objections, we'll figure out how to overcome those objections. And I think that's the best foot forward here. It's a new day, okay? So we'll do that. And like I said, they're already they're set for their rounds. We'll make that request. We have, not always everything that we put on there gets done. And like I say, the group has done well in getting a great share for us here in the town of Southampton, because it is for the entire county. So, your points have been made. Everybody, seems to want to do that, and then we'll take it as it comes. Is that fair?
Very good.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So,
That's the best we can ask for, thank you.
Okay.
so next steps is to send.
Next step is get us
send
all your
you
documentation that you
And
have.
get that bulkhead fixed ASAP.
Bulkheads,
Yeah.
all the bulkheads in the area that need to be dredged are very, very important, because nobody wants to take responsibility to be pointed to that your action, created our problem over here. They're not interested in that. They want to see that there's integrity all over. That's just common sense. So get that stuff squared, get us the paperwork. We'll go to the next step and we'll deal with the objections as they come.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Appreciate it.
presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on. I see Mr. Aaron Tertunian here, from First Coastal, and I know that he is going to be giving us a presentation about the Bridgehampton Watermill Sagaponic Beach Restoration Project.
Thank you.
You have to look at it. You have to look at it. Hello, how are you?
Hi, thank you, President Horowitz. Good afternoon, members of the trustees. My name is Kathleen Murray. I'm the Deputy Town Attorney for the Town of Southampton. With me today, as you know, is Aram Tuchernian of First Coastal and Dr. Tim Khanna of Coastal Science Engineering, which we refer to as CSE. They are the town's consultants for the Bridgehampton and Sagaponic Beach Erosion Control District projects. So if I may, I was just going to start out with a little bit of background because I know the last project was in 2013 and we do have some new trustee members. So by way of background, New York State Town Law authorizes the town board to create certain special improvement districts or special taxing districts to address particular projects within its jurisdiction. The legislature has identified those special improvement districts that may be formed, and a beach erosion control district is one such district. Specifically, the law allows the town board to create a beach erosion control district so that it may arrest erosion and prevent or alleviate damage from such erosion within the boundaries of the district. With this purpose in mind, the town board created the Bridgehampton and Sagaponic Beach Erosion Control Districts in 2013, which were devoted to placing approximately 2 million cubic yards of sand, or 1 million cubic yards per district, along roughly 6 miles of contiguous ECD shoreline. Generally speaking, the boundary of the Bridgehampton ECD includes those oceanfront homes from its western boundary of Flying Point Road to its eastern boundary of Sag Main Beach, and the boundary of the Sagaponic ECD, which is within the village of Sagaponic, from its western boundary of Sag Main Beach to its eastern boundary of Town Line Road. There are approximately 79 taxable parcels in the Bridgehampton ECD and approximately 53 taxable parcels in the Sagaponic ECD. As authorized in 2013, the total cost of the renourishment project for the Bridgehampton ECD was $13,143,350. Similarly, the total cost of the renourishment project for the Sagaponic ECD was $13,364,500. The life of that project and the attendant bond was 10 years, which matured in 2023. Recognizing the value and the success of that project, the homeowners again requested that the town board implement a second 10-year beach nourishment project to, for the most part, mimic the first project. And those discussions began with the town board in about 2022. So pursuant to New York State Town Law 202B, which is the specific mechanism designed for this purpose, and after proceedings before the town board, which lasted about 18 months, a second large-scale nourishment project was approved by Town Board Resolutions number 1360 and 1362 of 2023, and those were adopted on November 14th of 2023. Specifically, the cost of the beach nourishment project for each district this time, Bridgehampton and Sagaponic, is $13,609,125. About $10.5 million for each district is what is attributed to construction. The remaining monies are attributed to interest and to monitoring costs. And again, just to be clear, all of those costs are funded by the taxpayers within those special improvement districts. No other homeowner is charged with that except those that are within the district boundaries. Since that time, since November, the town's consultants, Dr. Khanna and Mr. Tuchernian, have been working on the construction specifications and the bid documents, and we are at a point now where we are ready to ask the town board to let those contracts at its next meeting of July 23rd. We do have a bid timeline with a notice to bidders of July 23rd, and we're hoping to open those bids in the end of August, on or about August 21st, and hopefully award those contracts, notwithstanding what comes back, either August 27th or September 10th. So with that in mind, if the board has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, at this point, I'll turn it over to Aram Tuchernian to talk a little bit more about the project, the engineering of the project itself.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation.
I'm just curious how this
Yes.
will be dealt with the Fire Island to Montauk Point dredging project. Which is
I'll let
upcoming.
Aram address that, but we're not included in that. We have never been included in that, and I'll allow Aram to speak to why we're not allowed to be included in that.
Good afternoon, President Horowitz, members of the board. Aram Tertunian for Coastal West Hampton Beach. On behalf of the Bridgehampton and Sagaponack Erosion Control Districts, this is Dr. Timothy Khanna of Coastal Science and Engineering, who is the primary engineering contractor. And first and foremost, I want to say thanks for this board's support in our last project that we did 10 years ago. This board, as well as the town board, was instrumental in getting that project approved. And we come before you today in looking for the same cooperation, and want to explain to you what this project is, what the project benefits are, and some of our specific needs from you in the permit application which you will be receiving. So this is the project area. As Kathleen said, it's about 6 miles, 5.7 and change. And it is on obviously the extreme eastern Atlantic shoreline of the town of Southampton. These projects, I guess, just to explain a little bit about, how a beach nourishment project is designed, and I'll let Dr. Khanna get into some of the details. But the object here is basically natural mimicry. What we're attempting to do is to build a beach that actually mirrors or mimics the natural beach. And in order to do that, we have the most important and key ingredient is compatible sand. And we happen to be blessed on our shoreline is that the offshore, in not that deep water, 50 feet plus or minus, there is an old beach that's several thousand years old where the sand is incredibly compatible, both in grain size, in grain texture, and in color. It's really, truly a remarkable situation that you just don't find in a lot of other areas. And it's one of the reasons why this project was so successful to begin with. Just so that you know, in 2017, I think, this project was awarded the best restored beach in America by the American Shore and Beach Preservation Association. So I'll let Tim get into the numbers here because he's a real numbers guy. So Tim, maybe you could walk him through that.
Thank you for letting us join you today and present things. And there's a lot of detail in here that I don't really want to spend a lot of time out. But we have determined how much sand was lost over the last 10 years since we did the 2013 project. The project has performed very well, but we do have some erosion hotspots. And the key thing that we're trying to do is create a wide enough recreational beach so that when we do have storm events, those localized erosion hotspots don't go all the way up to the dune. So we've found in this area, you need about 300 feet of berm to be safe for all time for Category 2 and 3 hurricanes. In some places, you have less than 100 feet. I was just there last week checking out some areas. So we have these localized erosion hotspots. The shoreline is undulating. And so we're trying to prevent it from getting so narrow that it starts encroaching on upland property. We'll have 3 borrow areas, as you see laid out. It looks like they're very close to shore, but in actuality, they're over a mile offshore, and they're in a depth of water that's well beyond the active zone of exchange between the beach and the inshore zone. This is well beyond the main longshore bar that is the breakpoint bar before the waves hit the beach. We've identified 3 borrow areas, A, B, and C. The Corps of Engineers has told us that they have some areas in here that we have to avoid. We'll work around that. But even with working around any kind of restrictions, we still have proven reserves is about 9 million cubic yards. We're hoping to put 1.5 million cubic yards on the on the beach this time. That's a reduction from last time because inflation factors and other factors are going to make dredging more expensive this time. The cost of mobilization of a dredge can be up to $10 million these days. So, half of our project cost might be in just bringing in the dredge and all the supporting equipment. We will subdivide whatever sand we can afford according to how the bids come in on a pro rata basis, fair and square, for each BECD to get its fair share. And we hope at the end of the day we'll get somewhere around 1.5 million cubic yards at minimum. To put that in perspective, that's about 60% of what we put on last time. But we still have well over 50% left over from last time. We'll have 4 pipeline corridors. There'll be a pipeline laid to the beach. We have certain corridors that we use with the idea of distributing the material and minimizing the amount of extra pipe that the dredger has to bring in. That reduces the cost. So we've verified the offshore topography and organisms and cultural resources out there. So that's where the 4 pipeline corridors will be. Let me just move on quickly here. We've done detailed bathymetry surveys, and this small scale, it's kind of hard to make out, but again, we're in water depths well over 45 feet for the majority of the borrow area. Altogether, there's offshore habitat totaling about 420 acres that will potentially be impacted, but at the end of the day, it'll be considerably less than that because we have so much more sand available to us than what we need. So the area that will be impacted will be below that amount. We'll have a maximum excavation depth of 7 feet, so we won't change the bottom topography significantly. And importantly, the bottom that remains after we do the cuts to up to 7 feet will be similar material as what we're taking out, so that any organisms that are living there will be able to repopulate and thrive. We found from monitoring other projects like this that the biological community in the borrow areas recovers quite rapidly if you don't have a lot of mud accumulating in the borrow area. And we don't have mud in this area. That's why we like to work here so much. Quite rapid in terms of recovery. Well, the borrow area that we dug in 2013 has not fully recovered. Sand will slough from the adjacent areas and it'll rebuild, but that material is sandy material for the most part. So we still can see evidence of some of the dredging from before. And in fact, those somewhat darker areas of this map there indicate some areas that were dredged in 2013.
Mr. President, biologically, 6 months?
Aram always cuts the chase.
Yeah, that's all I want.
Good. We've done a lot of research on the quality of sand offshore. We match up the grain size distribution curves, and these 2 sets of curves here are just showing you that the native beach and the borrow area beach are very similar. We actually like to get somewhat coarser material in the borrow area to put on the beach because that tends to make a little bit stabler beach. But you'll see from the results here that they're very close, and to the naked eye you won't be able to tell the difference between the borrow area sand that's put on the beach and the native sand. In fact, of all the 50, 60 some odd projects that our firm has done in the last 30 years, this came closest to being the perfect borrow area in 2013. As we were pumping the beach in, usually you can tell the pumped sand from the native sand. I was having a hard time figuring out where that stitch line was. That's how close it was. So I'm hopeful that and optimistic that we'll have a similar situation this go round. Similar grain sizes. Borrow Area 1 is up at the east end, and it's quite large, but we do have one patch. You can see hatched there on your figure there that the Corps of Engineers has designated as their sand if they ever do something with it. So we're just going to stay out of that area. It's a buffer zone. Area 2, similarly, we have another hatched area there that the Corps identified 30 years ago from some of their studies. So we're not going to touch that. And then in Borrow Area 1, you might see a little red circle in a couple of places. We've identified some anomalies, so-called anomalies, cultural resources that might be out there. It could be old fishing gear, it could be a wreck, but these are just small areas that show up. Dredgers don't like to run through those things, those areas. We don't like to run through those areas, so what we do is draw a circle around them, and we keep the dredge out of those potential cultural resource areas. We'll have 4 staging areas, actually from west to east as listed, not east to west, and we'll have 5 additional temporary storage and laydown areas, mainly at the beach accesses that you have, such as Cameron Beach and Sagmain Beach. That's where they can lay pipe temporarily before it goes out on the beach by the loaders. These are some key dates for the project. We're getting the bid packages out. We're just coordinating with the town's contracting officers about making sure that the specifications for the bid documents are consistent with the town's requirements. We'll put the notice out to bidders in the next week, we hope. Then we will schedule a pre-bid meeting where we'll invite the prospective contractors, and there are only about 5 contractors in the country that have the equipment that can work offshore, so it's not a lot of people that we would expect. We like to have pre-bid meetings so that we can explain the project to them and some of the key environmental protection requirements that they'll be faced with. But keep in mind that anybody who bids on this project, whether it's Great Lakes Dredge and Dock Company, Weeks Marine, Dutra, the handful of others that are out there, they all are used to the environmental protection requirements for these projects. They've been around the block many times, and as I've observed over the last 30 years how the dredgers operate, these are really quality construction firms. They take safety it's very important to them. They take environmental protection very seriously, and they know that if they can keep the regulatory agencies, groups like you happy, and the people who are using the beach while the construction is going on, if we keep those people happy, then they'll have a successful project. So you'll see a lot of interaction between the contractor and the town, our group, and of course they are very welcome to inviting people to see the project, but you have to put on the hard hat and you'll have to do all the safety reviews just like our group does. But it is a very professional group of people. Dredgers didn't always have a great reputation, especially some of the small firms, but these are very reputable with excellent reputation companies. So those are some of the key dates. We'll have a pre-bid meeting, opening the bids on the 21st, and hopefully give a notice to award by the end of August. We're on a tight timeline here. That's why we really hope that we can get your support for the project as quickly as you're able to. And then we'll mobilize the equipment for a startup around the 1st of December. That's our environmental window for the project is 1 December to 31 March. So that, in a nutshell, is the project. And I'll turn it over to Aram to answer some questions.
Just to add some small details, we've been focusing on the offshore and the sand, but I know the trustees are keenly interested in what happens onshore. We are going to be working because of environmental windows in the off-season when there is quite a bit of fishing traffic on the beach. So we want to assure you of a couple of things. Number one, that the regular access points that those beach driving people use will still be accessible. If there are any interruptions, we will obviously coordinate with this board, and they will be temporary in nature. When the project is actually underway, I apologize for not putting this slide in, there is always a continuous corridor along between the dune and where the sand is being placed, so that both vehicles and pedestrian can access the beach laterally. So this entire operation takes up about 500 linear feet of beach, and it moves about 500 feet a day. But regardless of where the sand is coming out, there will always be an access corridor for people and vehicles to pass in safety. This whole area is obviously fenced off, and as Tim was saying, these are hugely responsible corporations because some of them are listed companies. They're not private companies, these are public companies. So they have a tremendous motivation to maintain their site. And to Trustee Parsons' question about how does this relate to FIMP, it doesn't, because FIMP as a federal project requires a federal benefit cost ratio in excess of 1. So the benefits achieved by the project must exceed the cost of the project. And in this particular stretch of beach, that calculus doesn't work because the Army Corps has a very narrow view of what benefits are. For example, recreation and environmental benefits don't exist in the benefit cost analysis, where they clearly exist in our analysis and in the analysis that residents and local governments make. So with that, please, and I also want to go to something that Trustee Warner has said in the past, where as Dr. Khanna was saying, our dredging is going to be limited to a 7-foot cut. This is really key because, as Trustee Warner has pointed out to me in the past, some of the very, very early projects had a very deep cut, and those areas are still anoxic today. And so this is part of the learning curve and that we are now making much shallower cuts in order to get better rebound.
Yeah, that's really important to the commercial fishing industry, especially with the striped bass and the squid fisheries that are very prominent here. I know when you did the first project up at Mauritius, there are very large holes there that are still there today, and like you say, they're noxious and basically, nothing in them except for muck, and so it's kind of a waste of a good resource. But once you're done with the dredging, are you going to do like a sounding of the whole area to give us a what has been done as far as volume and depths and everything?
Yeah, we will do both a pre and post dredging bathymetric surveys, and then annually we measure both the beach and the offshore borrow areas, and all of the past 10 years are up on the town website and also available from me if you want them.
I think it's good that you learned. I'm sorry.
Sorry. How far off the outer bar is the actual dredge project?
While the outer bar is probably 100 yards offshore, plus minus.
Depends where you are.
Yeah, it depends where you are. We're at we're at like 5,000 feet offshore, so we're in 45 feet of water. Yeah. So what Dr. Khanna was talking about is something in the business we call the depth of closure. Depth of closure is the point at which the sand on the bottom is no longer influenced by the wave that passes over it. And so what we want to make sure is we're well outside the depth of closure. So the depth of closure here is around 27, 29 feet. We're almost double that.
And it's good that you did make those adjustments on the depth, because sometimes the past practices that you're doing, you realize as you move through time, you're like, well, we got to change something. This isn't working out. We got to do the same thing with the trustees. So it's good that you recognize that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
So we're looking for your support. You'll be getting some paperwork from us, and obviously James knows how to get a hold of me if you need anything.
I mean, Kathleen, can you speak to this? Like, what is it specifically that you need from us from an official standpoint? Or? Yep.
President Horowitz, we'll need a trustee permit.
Okay.
There was one issued in 2013. I can try and find that if it's easier to mimic
There
that.
was certain language that was important.
There was, and we
Yes.
did work on
Are
that.
you gonna
Yes.
handle that? Or you-
Sure, I can find that. I can locate that in my electronic files, and I can give it to James.
And then we could translate that to resolution and
Yeah.
Forward from there.
I think it
Yes.
included every single property that's affected, right?
I'm sorry?
I think it includes every single property that's affected in the area, right? I think
Yeah,
that's
there
how
was-
it was handled.
There was specific language as it relates to the easement,
Yes.
and just making sure that
Recognize
New York
the-
State
the
recognized
ownership of
it.
the sand
Correct.
is not
Yes.
gonna change our-
Yes.
our
Yeah, you know.
access and
Yes,
egress.
that's
Yeah,
exactly what it
That's
said.
the main driver.
Correct.
We're worried about.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
we'll, as soon as we get that to the environmental analyst, we'll move it, to resolution as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. Okay. We have another discussion on Little Fresh Pond Association.
So by way of background, trustees, I had met with the Little Fresh Pond Association several weeks ago, back in June. I attended their meeting, annual meeting, and I met with the president. And unfortunately, he can't come today due to health reasons. But Lewis is here to, in his stead, to discuss some things that he'd like us to consider and talk to us about how we can help the health of Little Fresh Pond. So, with that, please.
Thank you. President Horowitz, member of the trustees, thank you for hearing us. Part of the Little Fresh Pond Association, which was started in the 1980s by my father and a bunch of other
You're gonna have to stay by the mic. If you wanna stand that up in front of it maybe, and you can point in front of the, something like that.
Sure, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know.
It's either that or you gotta sit here and.
Okay,
you
maybe
probably-
I'll go up there later to show you what I wish to show you. So I'm here to talk about our focus has been since the 80s water quality management, and we've been distracted at different times when we had to deal with the Southampton Tennis Club and Camp, but that was for water quality. And right now we are doing, and we have been doing C-SLAP testing, participating in the New York State Council of Federation of Lakes DEC testing since the 1980s. We have over 30 years worth of data. That looks at the nutrient analysis, oxygen levels in the lake over time. And we have a lot of stuff, a lot of history of what the lake was, what it is now, and possibly where it's going. At this point, it's considered semi-eutrophic, so it's aging. We have phosphorus, we have nitrogen, we have leaves that are just rotting, creating a lot of this stuff. 2014, I personally got involved with the beginning of the Surfrider Foundation as a member of their Blue Water Task Force, and that looks at Enterococcus bacteria, which is mammal-based bacteria. Dogs, humans, geese are the main culprits. And that is done weekly in the summertime, every other week in the fall and the winter, and once a month every week in the fall and spring, and then once a month in the winter. And we met recently. Joe, thank you very much for coming to our meeting, and your expertise and insights about your experiences with Lake Agawam were instrumental for us thinking about things we could do to move things forward. Mr. Bill Pell came last year to one of our meetings to discuss some of these items also. Recently, we've had types of rains that have been very strong, and we've seen tremendous amounts of runoff going into the lake. And I have a little video if you'd like to see. I may have sent it. I did send it to James earlier, but it may not be. May not have been in time to pull it up.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, I can show you.
Video?
We realized, and we have realized it over time, that we need more storm drains, and we need to have them maintained better. Some of our roads have very few storm drains, and others are just not, they're clogged. And this causes runoff into the lake because we don't have bioswales and barriers. So we've been thinking about how do we approach water quality in phases. Things we could do first that would have an immediate impact, which would be reducing the contaminants and the bacteria from the roads going into the lake. which might be the easiest thing to do because it would require partnering with the highway department, because they're the ones who would respond and have responded at times when we've yelled, well, requested, please give us a storm drain. We've had terrible puddles sometimes on Little Fresh Pond Road and other locations. So that's one of the things we think we can do quickly. The other things we might have to, as per your guidance, we may need to do a CPF. One of the items that you've spoken about, Joe suggested, is the bioswale, something to prevent the runoff going into the lake if the storm drains are clogged. Then, of course, ocean-friendly gardens. I'm in discussion right now with a person I contact with at the Surfrider Foundation about how do we go ahead to start moving that forward, but it's on town property. And that's where maybe I should come up or sit down and show you this.
Whatever, yeah, if you want to sit down here and you can sit right here with us if you want, probably be best.
Okay.
Gotta take it off the mic.
Oh,
Yeah.
So this is the lake. As you see, okay, this is it by GIS. This is the image of where the roads are around it, and we see certain sections that go right into the lake. So this is North Sea Road. Back here is North Sea Mecox Road. There is not one, I realize North Sea Road is a county road, but there is not one storm drain on this road until you and water makes a right-hand turn going down Fresh Pond Lane.
Yes.
And it goes right to the end there, which it builds up and it actually goes into the lake. That's what the video shows. I also have some photographs about that. So that's a big area where we need to have some storm drains over here, the top part of this road. Again, that's North Sea, this is Fresh Pond Lane. And this is town property, or is it trustee property? I believe it's owned by the town.
It's a town
Town?
road end, yeah.
Once you touch the water, then it becomes our jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're underwater lands of the pond.
Well, this whole area is acting like a big sump for North Sea Road and Fresh Pond Lane.
Have you been in discussions with former trustee Ann Welker? Because there's a huge project that's going on with North Sea Road at present.
Yes, and we've made requests to have them install storm drains on that, and right now there's a big survey going on, and we're all responding to, no, we don't want curbs anymore. We don't want curbs, but
because
yes,
curbs is just going to exacerbate the problem at the end of that road without proper drainage.
They absolutely.
Are they considering the drainage?
We don't know yet.
What if there's any grant opportunities for drainage?
Well, that's funny, I'm going to meet with someone from Bob Moses' group on Wednesday, and she's going to look around with us about that. But we've also gone to the highway department, and they've installed drains on Little Fresh Pond Road up here. That was a terrible, terrible situation. People are going to be moving, so we know they can do something. We're just hoping to get your insights and your support with that. And then there's the public beach over here. We call it the public beach because that's where I swam as a kid. Not maintained, and again, there's flow that goes into the water. So the first thing, we'd like to have some storm drains, additional storm drains, and better maintained. Kim Shaw in the town of East Hampton had been experimenting with filters under the drains because it's a decontaminant, antibacterial.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to her directly in the last 2 months, so I don't know how that's gone.
Yeah, you put a catch basin with a vortex in it, and you put a filter in it, and it kind of like, pulls out the material that most of the gas and stuff like that, and the bad stuff gets pulled out. But you have to, whenever you put these, they need to be maintained.
That's it.
Maintenance is a real. You put a storm drain on it, it fills up with sand. One of these things, the little filter in the mechanism, it all fills up. It's got to be pulled out. It's got to be clean.
Right.
So once you do it, you have to have a whole maintenance program for this.
And that's what we're experiencing right now, because many of our drains that are there are clogged with silt, and some of them are just leaves and stuff litter that has flowed off of the roads.
Yep.
So, how's the best way? Well, maybe not.
Best way forward, trying to get some
To get-
some visibility on these issues and
Well,
some
how-
resolution.
How do we get the storm drains maintained more effectively or more frequently, or do we make the phone calls? Or it'd be nice if I don't know if there
You
was a
might
way.
want to speak to Tom Houghton. He's the town engineer.
Okay.
Because prior to him being there was a gentleman named Mike Collins and Walter Bundy, and they went throughout the whole town and they, looked at these areas, Fish Cove, Shinnecock Bay, and they might have an actual plan for installation of storm drains that have never been followed through on.
I think what also would have made sense is I was hoping Councilman Pell would come today. He used to be Trustee Pell.
Yeah.
So he understands this. I think he's also the liaison to the highway department.
Oh, okay.
So I think that what really would be good was a further collaboration between our board.
Cindy the liaison?
That's what I was.
Is he for
I
highway?
thought Cindy was the liaison, and you'd probably
For
get a lot
highway,
of
but
he
horsepower
is
with her
liaison
because
to
she's
the area.
local to the area.
Oh, he's liaison to the area.
He's yeah.
To North Sea, Bill
To
Pellis.
the area, yeah. So
Yeah.
he could advocate for, from town engineer and whatnot. And we could also perhaps collaboratively work and see if there are some grant opportunities to take some pressure off of this waterway.
Okay.
And I think this is an excellent start of a communication. You're asking very excellent questions, and you come into the right place because everybody sitting here knows we're the recipients of all of this. So obviously we advocate for people trying to take some pressure off, and if there are opportunities, we should do that.
But I think as this project's going on North Sea Road in the county, I think that is your primary concern at this moment right now, because that is the most amount of runoff, and it's a project in motion. And Ann Welker is probably really in favor of stopping.
You should make a call to legislator.
I'll follow up with Ann about that. And see
Okay, so Joe will follow up with Ann on that, and
She would be
follow up.
super helpful because she was involved with Surfrider, and she's big into upland.
No,
And these are it's out of our jurisdiction, but we'll certainly provide any backup support or documentation, as needed.
That was my response to Jim and to Larissa was, yes, the drain. Some of these things are out of our purview, but we can do as a support and talk with Councilman Pell about these issues. So that is what we can do. So
at the end of Fresh Pond Lane, you've been there with the boats, right? You know what it's like. It's where you launch the boats and people want to go fishing.
Yes.
That's where the water comes in. It's odd because there's a lot of grass there. There's a lot of growth, but I do have the video and pictures where you can actually see the water coming in on the left-hand side as you're approaching it. But we were thinking to move forward with some type of a rain garden, and that's using your property to put some type of a they call them ocean-friendly gardens through the Surfrider Foundation, but they're actually absorption of water and runoff before it gets to the end. So that's another thing we want to move and understand what it's going to take for you to think that.
Yeah. You got to work with the public access and also mitigation of the water, because I've been down there quite a few times, because that's where we put the trout, when we put the fish in the pond.
Oh, okay.
That's the road end that we go there and we throw the fish into the pond. So I've been there quite a few times. But the neighbors down there were complaining because they wanted to cut the access off completely, which we're not in favor of, because you got to have access to the pond, but also you got to take in consideration that when you drive over this grass multiple times, you create ruts in there, and it allows more water to run down there. So we asked the highway department to put some drains further up in the road. I don't know if they've ever done this. This is about 10 years ago.
There are 2 drains, right?
yeah, there's 2 drains on the
About 10 years ago, they were placed there, I think.
on the north side, right?
There's one on the north and one on the side, very close to where the road ends.
Yes.
But it's not on that whole strip of the dead end area,
Yeah.
which is where the water builds up, which is where we need it. And there's one very close up to the top, but it's not nearly strong enough or big enough to handle the water that's coming
Well,
over.
the volume of the water going over it just bypasses. That's a problem. It's too steep there.
Scott and I have discussed quite frequently too a lot of these trustee roads and endings, and there are there are pavers or plastic pavers whereby you can make them permeable and have grass growing up through them, or have shell base where so the water can drain through and you can drive over the top of
Yeah.
them and you're not going to make ruts. And we're really in favor of those. And it's definitely on the trustee radars to kind of mitigate stormwater runoff in a natural, efficient, inexpensive manner.
You know, this Little Birch Pond is supposed to be, was considered a carry boat only, so there should not be trailers going into the lake. That's also very dirty. It's full of contaminants from the road. And I got that information from the state that it's considered carry boat only.
Supposed to have a boat in the back of your truck and pull it down. Yeah,
And you're carried over like the 5 feet or
Yeah.
more like 10 feet right now.
it's a little 10-foot John boat with a little electric engine on it. Yes.
I'm gonna take a look at all this.
Also, while you're here, Lewis, I also did witness with Lewis and Jim that there's some lily pad clustering over on that and near Willowfish Pond Road. So, you know, I know there was discussion under a prior board to either purchase or rent a lily pad harvester. So if we can reinvigorate that discussion, not just for Willowfish, but for other board rides as well.
Permitting and everything else that's associated
Yeah,
with this.
And our volume of lily pads changes from year to year. And I was just out walking around there about a month ago. It's not pleasant on the feet, but that's okay. It has nothing to do with it. But very deep roots, and you know, maybe that's, I don't know how important or bad that is for the nutrients. We certainly have a lot of nutrients. We certainly have oxygen. Otherwise, we would see dead fish, and we have frogs and other critters. I think that's the whole idea of the drains, and maybe if there's such a thing as being able to do a bioswale to prevent the runoff from going in there. That's more of a short-term thing. But then we know there's long-term, medium-term, and long-term, and maybe we need to do a CPF request. But one of the things I'd like to understand more is what is the characterization of the bottom of the lake. We know we do the sea slab testing, so we know there's at least a few feet of muck and silt. And when I go diving in the lake, I haven't been in a while.
Organic material.
I'm sorry?
Organic material. Decomposing organic material, yes.
Okay.
And we're going through the same thing with Mill Pond, so I'd suggest you kind of like follow the thread of what we're doing in Mill Pond, which is kind of a pilot project whereby we're trying to mitigate the organic material on the bottom of the lake.
Oh, really?
And there's some amendments that are going to be available in the foreseeable future, but it's a work in progress. I believe Gobler's lab is testing those for solitude lake management. So I would kind of like just parallel with us as far as how the Mill Pond progress is going.
Okay.
As far as that problem of organic material that becomes anoxic and then produces phosphorus and nitrogen and all that stuff. So it's on the radar.
Okay. Unlike Mill Pond, we don't have frequent HABs. We have them usually once or twice at the end of the summer when the lake is doing its turnover. You know, the warm water is sinking.
Yeah. Yep.
We had one last, I think, late July. We haven't had one yet, but when it happens, you know, it lasts for a few days and then it goes away. So HABs, not as bad as Mill Pond, and thank goodness for that at least. We've stopped fertilizing, at least we think we've stopped fertilizing most of the homes probably about 20 years ago. I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
It does. Takes some
Well, that's the
pressure off.
immediate
Absolutely.
runoff that purges right in there, and then everything explodes.
Yeah,
in
and
the
then
water.
also the problem too is that they're really finding is that the pre-emergence, it's like a broadleaf pre-emergent, goes into the lake, and then what that pre-emergent can do is actually can stall or inhibit the native algae to grow for a period of time, whereby you can have an algae outburst of an algae you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you're not having fertilizing and or pre-emergence is really the savior of your lake.
Oh, that's good. We need something good. So, how do we go about addressing? You've spoken to me about I should be in touch with the town engineer about.
Yes, you
dealing
might
with,
have schematics for drainage around the whole pond.
Okay.
He might. I don't know.
I might let the council person for the area try to run that down for you. You know what
Okay.
I mean, I think we need to include Councilman Pell.
Yeah.
And because I think we can cut through a lot of the chase by getting some collaboration with him on this, because he understands the trustee aspect, and now he's in that other seat. I think instead of sending you all over the place, I think perhaps what we need to do is schedule another meeting, not necessarily, a work session, but at our offices over in Hampton Bays when it's convenient for Councilman Pell to be there as well with Trustee McLaughlin, and go down the list and kind of figure out the best way to get all these resources that you need.
And Walker.
And also,
Yes.
and that's more immediate because, like to your point, you have a county project
That's a shovel-ready project.
that's imminent. So I would set up a meeting with her as well, and she's welcome to collaborate with us on it if she wants.
Okay. We don't think that's happening until 25, though, right? That,
Yeah, but things in
Yeah, but
government,
you
you
gotta
want to
make
get ahead of it.
plans.
I mean, I was hoping that we'd be able to get at least some efforts for drains done maybe
Well-
within a month.
well-
I don't know. I don't know how government.
You know what? But that's really what I think you should do at this point in time. Is that you gotta kind of get the priorities, take this down to a little bit of a smaller meeting session, get the people in the room that need to. They can make those phone calls a lot faster and get those answers probably faster than you. And that's their function, quite frankly.
Okay.
And that's really what you should do. Figure out a convenient time for those other parties to be there as well. The full board. We're here obviously to support taking pollution out of our waterways, of course, but for the effective achievement of this, we got to handle this a little bit different.
And things like the bioswales, would we go to you for
That's
approval?
all
or creation?
upland. Everything above the water, the high tide mark, is the town of Southampton.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's property that's owned by the town of Southampton and it's bumping up against our jurisdiction at the waterway, then it's going to be a collaborative effort. But we're going to have to really take a step back and do some more analysis on this. It's not, everyone's like, oh, we'll go to the CPF. It's not all as easy as it sounds to just say we're going to go here.
No, I realize we need to understand more about the lake and how water flows
yeah,
and
it's-
stuff, characterization.
This is a big process, and you have to start somewhere. You came here, and it's a great start. And I think there are other resources that are available so that we can prioritize and refine what it is that we can do, and what's actionable sooner, and what's going to be more of a heavy lift, and kind of get the people that are involved. And I think we really need to bring in these other folks, reschedule a meeting.
Okay.
It's a little bit more concise.
Two other things, one of which is we have sunken big old trees and stuff that's actually on the
Docks.
part of the property that's right near the camp, and part of it is owned by either a town or conservation. And all of these rotting things are just creating more nutrients for the lake. We spoke to Bill Pell about that last year, and he wasn't sure about the best way to move forward. Again, it was close to the election, so I think he wasn't thinking too much with how to manage lake stuff at that point. But is there a way that we can move forward with the trustees to try to remove that?
Couldn't even answer that question because, first of all, some of these things do, are a natural process and become part of habitat. So until we figure out exactly what's going on, and then there are things that are just beyond our capability to do, beyond maintenance's capability to do. So without further looking at this, it's hard to even give you an answer to see what it is exactly.
But as
where
far
it
as trees and shrubbery, I would just leave it alone because it's habitat for fish and
That's-
frogs and everything.
That's right.
This is stuff that's actually, it's boats go by it, you hit it. It's in the water, it's about maybe 4 feet off. Well, now it's
Is it a
probably
stump or something?
it looks like a big old stump that was there maybe from like 50 years ago.
Right.
I
Probably.
don't know.
It's
Yeah.
part of the, we'd have to really take a look, but in a lot of instances, that's what I said, it becomes part of the habitat and part of what it is in these areas. And it just, you can't, where do you stop? They're all flooded.
Right.
It keeps right on going, and sometimes you're doing more harm than good because you're messing with the natural habitat. So we really,
You're really going to have some ruts in that road.
exactly, we really got to need, this is a lot more information needed to answer a question like that.
Okay, so how would I go about then trying to seek out, because the DEC recommended that anything bigger than 1 foot of diameter is taken
I
away.
think you should really prioritize the issues that you want to take with this pond, and that's probably way down on the list. So
I had that as number 2. I mean, in terms of phase 2.
yeah, I would say concentrate on the bioswales and the upland drainage, and contacting Bill Pell and contacting Ann Welker, and really getting a handle on the upland drainage parts of the issue, and really
Okay.
kind of like I wouldn't try to take on too much at once because you're going to find this is a very arduous process.
Or, you know, it could be a rock or something too. I mean, there are rocks around, you know, in the bays around here, so it could be an old rock or something that's on the bottom.
I've seen it up close. It's definitely a stump. It has things growing up from it, or it had things growing out. It's, you know, we go. It's pretty easy to see.
Yeah.
The water's pretty clear. Actually,
Well, that's
for the
good.
pond. So we're very excited that you're going to be possibly moving forward with the council, a lake consortium. I think Scott, you mentioned that at the big Bob Moser meeting at one point. Should we try to get something going together on it?
You know,
Big Fresh is happy about it. I know we're happy
Right.
about it. Bob seems to be enthused.
yeah, well, we're not sure where we're at on it. 'Cause there are a lot of different organizations that form. You guys have your organization. We talked about, you know, there are things that work. Why did they fail? And you know, how do we get that? There are these conservancies that are forming all over the place. So that like you're representing this water body, other people are representing other water bodies. I think that's a great thing. I think what we need to do is we need to reschedule this meeting with Councilman Pell.
Yeah.
We have to get these other folks around the table, and I think that's really the best way that we can get some resolution and marching forward on this.
Okay.
Well, you've kind of capped the time on this issue for us. We have
Okay.
other people.
All right. Sorry. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
And
coming
we look
in.
forward to hearing it. Joe, you're going to be the point person on this.
Of course, yeah.
And then what we'll do is we'll make some phone calls, see what the availability of others is, and then we'll
Yes.
convene, not here, it'll be at our other offices.
Okay.
That way we don't have to just run on scheduled meeting days, we can run on just convenient days for, you know, because it's not a full forum or board, it's just gonna be the
Okay.
needed people in the room, so then it's gonna be convenient to people's individual schedules like you're on.
Okay. And I have some next steps, Mr. Horton, Hougghton.
Yeah, Tom Howard.
I would actually,
Ann and-
I would
ask
Bill?
Billy.
I would let Bill do that. I would let Bill make those connections for you. That way it'll save you a lot of running around. That's really the council person's responsibility
Okay.
to help
Yeah.
do that. And I think that will save you a lot of phone calls and running around. And that's why I'm saying that I'm trying to urge you the best to let's set up a meeting just with the folks that we need so we can get to the answers and get to everything a lot faster than all this running around. I'm trying to
Okay.
save you a lot of.
That's great.
An elected official will cut to the
That's
chase.
That's their
He'll get the job
responsibility.
done.
The
That's what you guys are, right?
We
Yeah, but that's their purview.
That's our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So everybody had like, and Legislator Welker, she has her jurisdiction.
Yep.
We have our jurisdiction. A lot of the stuff that you talked about is in other jurisdictions. So you get the constituent service people for that representation of that jurisdiction collaboratively. Then you can get to somewhere instead of running all over the
Yep.
place. We try and boil it all down for you, and then everybody kind of gets on the same page, and then you stand a chance. So we can only represent what we have authority over, and a lot of it is outside of that authority. So it's advocacy and support.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I was figuring with the Department of Public Works that it would be your advocacy for getting better drainage.
Well, it is, but we don't have the authority to order that. We can only advocate, and that's why we need to work with the other folks. You follow me? We can request it, and then they have to say, "Hey, this is worthy."
We would just send a
It's-
letter
it's-
of recommendation to them from our
Right.
board stating that we would like a bioswale placed in here for X, ABC, what are the reasons, and, you know, and then you'd come as an association backing that up, so it would get a little more traction, and then hopefully we get it done.
We
Okay.
can't sign the contracts to put the thing in because it's not on our property or jurisdiction. You
Yep.
understand? So everybody has to.
That would be with the town. I mean, Bill Hill, town
It
board.
depends where
Yeah.
where this thing's going.
Yep.
Let's schedule another meeting.
Yes.
Thank
And
you
we'll
very
keep
much.
moving
Really
forward.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We do have.
Public comment.
No, well, we're not up to public portion yet. No, we have a notice of public hearing.
No, we have a hearing, yeah.
We have a hearing, yeah. Notice of public hearing on amendment of Blue Book A340, amending the management requirements of the waters of the town of Southampton, Article 7, Section 53, pier line in designated areas. I will make a motion to open up the public hearing.
Second.
Seconded trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, special counsel Lombardo, do you want to speak on this?
Yeah, I prepared this Blue Book change at the board's request. It imposes a pier line within the incorporated village of Sag Harbor. We have the tax map numbers that it runs through. It's looks like 10 lots between lot 5 and lot 15 within that area. and there's nothing else much to say about it.
Okay, anybody here from the public that would like to speak at the public hearing?
Hello. Is this on?
Yes.
It's on.
Doesn't seem like it. Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning. Part of the reason that this hearing is occurring is from one of the applications that I've recently discussed with the board a few times on Ferry Road. It's in the village of North Haven, right?
Yes.
Just to reiterate to the board, the importance of this pier line change is to allow for better navigability in this area because there are some large boulders that are in the shallower portions, excuse me, that are visible on aerials. As far as my application, we're proposing 95 feet from mean high water, which is less than the average within this area that is existing, developed with docks. And I believe I had given a chart to the board at our last meeting that showed all the approvals and the distances from the high water mark, etc. So changing this pier line would help a smoother approval for my client's project that would be then in keeping with the Blue Book requirements. Just so the board is aware, as far as my specific project, we just received Army Corps approval, and we also have Department of State. The DEC has deemed our application complete, but it's under review.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So really, it's boulders that are making
Yeah, that eastern shore of the cove is full of very large boulders, some of them as large as cars. And they're, at low tide, there's 6 or 8 inches of water on top of them. So the shorter docks that are, 40, 50 feet are right where those boulders are, moving the docks offshore, 30
Safety
or 40
issue.
feet, you're not going to run into these boulders. And if you happen to be riding in a jet ski, you don't want to ever hit one of them because they're, pretty substantial. So, it's a smart move. We did it by Sears Island, which is on the west side of Sag Harbor Cove last year, moving the docks out, lengths out a little bit to get out of the boulders that are on the underwater lands there. So I think it's a good process.
Is there anybody on Zoom that wants to speak on this public hearing? Any hands up? No one on Zoom. No one on Zoom that wants to speak on this. Trustee Marin, you have something to say on this?
Not really. I mean, I'm going to ditto Ed on this. This is just a safety issue for vessels navigating in this area. That's why this pier line was extended a little bit. I don't feel comfortable having an inexperienced, I don't know how much experience this person, but anybody who does not have very good knowledge of this area navigating within 50 foot of shore. So that's why we pumped out the pier line a little bit.
Anybody else want to comment on this?
I think, the fact that there's so much clearance away from shore, really kind of works in the favor of pushing this out. It's not like we're restricted by other shoreline on the opposite side, so we have this room. May as well use it.
I would just concur with my fellow trustees and saying that, obviously, we're here to not only maintain access, but also to maintain safety. So this is all about to safety. So I'm all for this first amendment.
Recommended. So close the public hearing and.
Scott, one question. Just it says Village of Sag Harbor. Should you change it to Village of North Haven?
It should be the Village of North Haven, yes.
I was told Sag Harbor, so I apologize for that error.
Well, when do you have to make that?
Have to amend that.
Change?
We can make a motion to amend it. To read Village of North Haven, Incorporated Village of North Haven.
Does this thing have to be renoticed and redone now? Is it
No.
a fatal error?
No, it's not a fatal error, because the tax map number is unique to the properties.
Yes, so the tax map number
I'll
will.
second Joe's motion.
So we got a seconded by Trustee Marin. All
Who made the motion?
Joe McLaughlin
Joe.
made the motion to amend it. Motion and a second. Are we all in favor?
Aye.
And then to close the public hearing, Make a motion.
I'll
So
second
seconded
that.
by trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
I think we're leaving it open for 14 days?
Let's leave it open for
Yeah.
14.
I have to do a notice of adoption if you're going to, for the next meeting, so.
Yeah, I would say
let's leave it open to the next meeting.
Leave it open. You want to leave, no, we don't want to leave it open. You want to close it.
We wanna
but you
close
want
it, but leave it open for written
comment.
Written comment.
Yes.
So we'll be open for the next,
10 days. 14 days.
Okay.
Next meeting.
Yeah. August
you want to
5th.
say a number of days, or do you want?
14 days.
Well, 14 days, and the next meeting is gonna be August 5th, so you'll be fine.
14 days.
Yeah.
Okay. So written comments can be received for another 14 days. Okay? All right.
Public portion.
Public portion. Anybody here want to address the board for any issues? Anybody on Zoom that needs to address the board?
Okay.
No one on Zoom. Wants to address us in the public forum. Application for permits. So the Board of Trustees hereby waives a public hearing on the following applications because it has been determined that the following projects do not raise a significant degree of public interest or public input is not needed to aid in the decision-making process. Okay, so I have Trustee Resolution 2024-182. It's a modification and renewal for Deborah and Moore Hirschberg at 19 Dune Road, Village of Quogue. Tax map 902-12-01-12.9, located on the Quogue Canal. Recommended approval.
Second.
Seconded, Trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2024-183. It's an application of Cornblatt LLC at 11 Diana Circle in Hampton Bays, tax map 900-345-2-11. Recommended approval.
Second.
Seconded, Trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2024-184, application of Susan Lodato, 302 East Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County, tax map number 900-230-3-20, body of water, Shinnecock Bay. We worked on this at work session. I recommend its approval. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded, Trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2024-185, application for Pink Ginger Limited, 8 Russell Lane, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County, tax map 900-14-02-11, body of water, Shinnecock Bay. We worked on this at work session, so I recommend its approval. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded, Trustee Parsons, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2024-186, application for C.C. Weiner, 2 Auntie Sandringham Lane, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County, tap map 900-271-1-48.5, body of water, Shinnecock Bay. We worked on this at work session. I recommend its approval. I need a second.
Seconded, Trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Trustee Resolution.
One nay.
What's that?
You have one nay.
Trustee Resolution 2024-187, application of 40 Ocean View Drive LLC, 40 Ocean View Drive, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County, tax map 900-272-1-44, body of water, Shinnecock Bay. We worked on this at work section. I recommend its approval. Any second?
Seconded, Trustee Parsons. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Trustee Resolution 2024-188. This is a renewal application for 7 Noyak Harbor LLC at 7 Noyak Harbor Road in Noyak, New York. A CTM number 900-4-1-57 as the body of water is Dug Lagoon in Noyak Creek. Could I have a second on this one?
Second.
Seconded, Trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye. And we have Trustee Resolution 2024-189. This is an application of Dama LLC, 239 Gibson Lane in the village of Sagaponack. We discussed this in work session, and this was the permit to remove an existing walkway and replace it with in-kind. Second on that one.
Second. Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye. This is trustee resolution 2024-190, application of 140 Hayground Cove Road Partners LLC and 140 Hayground Cove in Watermill, New York, 900-102-3-14.32. The body of water is Mecox Bay. This is a Phragmites project.
Second on that. Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye. And this is trustee resolution 2024-191. It's the application of 443 Sagaponic LLC, 443 Sagaponic Road in the village of Sagaponic, New York. Trustees. This is another Phragmites remediation project.
I'll second that. Seconded by trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee resolution 2024-192, recall and amend resolution authorizing retaining the professional services James E. Olivo, CPA for consulting, whereas the Town of Southampton resolution 2024-113 adopted January 8, 2024, authorizing retaining the professional services of James E. Olivo, CPA for consulting, and whereas the resolution 2024-13 shall be recalled and amended. The amended amount from the amount not to exceed $7,500 to the amount not to exceed $20,000, and so it be resolved. Recommend its approval.
Second.
Seconded, trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Aye. This is trustee resolution 2024-193. This is a notice of public hearing to impose a moratorium on the issuance of first-time shell fishing permits in the town of Southampton. There will be a public hearing shall be held on Monday, August 5th, 2020 at 1 p.m. in Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, New York. To hear any and all persons for or against the imposition of a 6-month moratorium on the issuance of trustee commercial shell fish permits. Do we have a second on that?
Second. Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee resolution 194 of 2024. This is a permit for the fireworks display for Spunk Golf Club at Spunk Beach. I wasn't sure, given our discussion at the beginning, if we're going to do that, if we're going to put this forward to the Clovers, so I wasn't sure what the board wanted to do, given our.
I think we are going to pass it. I think we built language in. We built
Number
language
six.
into this authorization
Number
that.
six.
Condition 6 says that
Okay.
if the DEC closes the beach, our permit is null and void.
Correct.
So
So, right, so you can pass this resolution and you're
Sorry.
not in violation of the.
I just want to clarify that for the record, given our discussion.
Yes.
before, so-
Yes.
So, okay, so I motion, I asking for motion for the passage of this resolution for fireworks for August 3rd, 2024.
Second. Second, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Got trustee resolution 2024-195, it's a notice of adoption of amendment of Blue Book 8340, amending the management and products of the waters of the town of Southampton. Whereas the trustees of Freeholds and Commonalty of the town considered a change to the rules and regulation, where we held a public hearing on Monday, June 17th, to hear any and all persons. The legislative intent was to clarify rules a commercial entity using a trustee-owned dock must follow. Section 61 of the rules and regulations for the management and products of the waters of the town of Southampton is hereby amended by deleting the stricken words and adding the underlined words as follows. Commercial permit holders engaged in activities which will include the use of a trustee-owned bulkhead or dock for a period of time in excess of 2 hours shall notify the office of the trustees at least 24 hours in advance of the use, providing the officer the type of activity that will occur, identification of any vessel that will be involved, and the amount of time the facility will be used. Second on that. Seconded by trustee Warner.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have trustee resolution 2024-196. This is what you spoke about earlier. It's authorizing a temporary dock at Roseville Road for Mariners Cove Marina from 7/18/24, does this have to be amended?
Yeah, it should be 7/17.
7/17, so somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to amend it to read 7/17.
Second.
24.
Okay, so motion made by trustee Warner, seconded by trustee McLaughlin to amend 7/18 to 7/17. Now the resolution is to authorize this dock from 7/17 through 7/22/24. It's a temporary floating T dock with a stated configuration to be removed. There will be absolutely no blocking of the bay access at the Southampton Town Boat Ramp at Rose Hill Road. And it is understood that the guests will be valet parked off the site. And all employees of Mariners Cove Marina must have ramp permits on their vehicles. Can you speak to anything more on that?
Sounds good.
Okay, so is that your second?
You got to
I'll
vote.
second
you gotta- You got to vote on the amendment, and then the resolution as amended has to be voted on. 2 votes.
Did we vote on the amendment?
No, we did not.
Okay, so motion, I'll make the motion on the amendment.
Second.
Seconded trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
And then I'll make a motion on the resolution.
As amended.
Seconded by trustee Marin, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we have trustee resolution 2024-197. It's authorizing the president to sign a short-term lease with Southampton Colonial Society, DBA the Southampton Historical Museum. This is just to keep everything proper while we are working on the bigger
Yes.
lease. So I don't know, Joe, if you want to add 2 cents into this? or-
No, just thank you, President Howard, for all your work on this and working with the museum. It's been a pleasure. But I hope that we all can find a resolution to this issue for a more longer term lease going forward. So,
Sure.
well, yeah.
Short-term lease has been reviewed by special counsel.
Correct. Yeah.
Short-term lease. been in contact with the Historical Society's attorney. Looks like there'll be no issues that I can foresee. There's a good working relationship. We'll get it done.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
second the
So I made it, seconded by trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Trustee resolution 2024-198. Resolved for the warrant number 11 for $108,000, $432.17. As register 84 lumber, COLP, $1,391.33. Be Ready Fishborn Hatter, $1,837.50. Delane Financial Services, $4,624.10. Joseph R. Lombardo, $6,900. Lopez Equipment Corporation, $276.97. James E. Olivo, $2,437.50. Town of Southampton, $90,634.50. And W.B. Mason, Inc., $330.27 for a total of $108,432.17. I recommend its approval. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded trustee Marin, all in favor?
Aye. We have some walk-ons here.
Go ahead, you want to do
One walk on.
walk on number
1.
1?
Okay. Road-
Pass that down to him? You have it?
We have
Um,
2 walk-ons.
We have
Yeah,
2
we do.
walk-ons.
I thought we were having a public hearing on it.
No.
I
The
thought we
second
were.
one's something about, yeah, it's a public hearing, we're not doing that.
You're not doing that yet because he's gonna come back.
Right.
Yeah,
You
okay.
asked him to
One
come
walk-
back, one
Okay,
walk on,
all
and
right,
then
so we have one
discussions.
walk-on. Road review application, 293 Old Sag Harbor Road, Bridgehampton, Suffolk County, map 900-30-1-41.2. We're going to accept this as it was prepared for us by the town engineer. Everybody on the board, I believe, is in favor of this recommendation, so I need a second on it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. So we can,
So that's the walk-ons.
it's the walk-ons, yes.
So there's various trustee discussions, before we gotta go back into exec. We're still getting a lot of complaints in my area about the sailboat. So even rolling in on everybody's emails, there's more complaints. So I don't know where we're at. What we're doing, what's going on. I mean, we'll probably maybe need to have an executive discussion about this, but
Have we had a discussion with our liaison with the town board as far as what that person is, thinking or recommending to the fellow board members and the attorney? I mean, it was brought there by the Bay Constables. It is tied up at our dock, which is the right thing to do, but it needs to be expedited much quicker than a month or so here. I reached out to the Bay Constables, or they reached out to me to have marine maintenance help with disassembling the boat and taking off some of the hazardous material, which we agreed to. I don't know where that is. I asked, for an update, which I have not received yet. But I mean, this boat needs to be taken out of there sooner than later. I mean, it's interfering with some of the people that want to go fishing in the public and use of the trustee ramp.
What hazardous material are they gonna be removing?
I believe it's any diesel fuel and other fuels that are in the boat.
Why are our guys doing that? Why don't they just hire an environmental company to come do that?
It's all
I-
loose rigging and.
Yeah,
Where's it gonna go?
I have not been updated with that information.
Maybe they'll put it in a town truck.
Well, we don't know that it's, tainted diesel fuel that's gonna ruin a town truck,
I think we need to update from our liaison from the town board to
I
update
think-
us
I-
before we.
Yeah, there's companies that do that professionally.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Miller Environmental.
Seems like they probably have all the equipment.
Yeah.
Not their first time doing it.
they pump-
I'm getting pounded, with problems and complaints with this. I don't mind working with everybody.
I think we need an update from Bill Pell.
I still would love to see this thing just towed over to Tiana Bay, Bayside, that bulkhead off to the east there, and just put it there out of everyone's sight, get it out of East Quogue. It would take maybe an hour to come across, put it over there.
You have to do it on extreme high tide. I mean, I'm sure it probably needs 5 foot. It's probably, I don't know.
Giraffe's 5 feet.
Yeah, big keel under that. I don't mind our pier, and it's a trustee pier. Let's be clear. This is not a town pier. To my knowledge, it's a trustee-owned pier that the trustees are paying debt service on the repair to the tune of about $400,000 for the freeholders and commonality of the town to enjoy the resource, not be there because somebody decided they don't want their boat anymore, and we're stuck with it.
Let's get an update from our council person and see where it all plays out. Because I mean, that he would know that where the town is at this. Right now, I know they would have passed some kind of legislation, not allowing these boats to be around or exist, and to get some funding for them to be taken care of.
I spoke at town board meeting on this a couple weeks ago and said, listen, it's great, pass resolutions, but you need to know what the next steps are. In other words, who's going to be responsible? What company are you going to call to remove it and deal with it, and where's it going to go? And I was told we can handle it in-house, but now our maintenance people are going to go down there and be pumping fuel or whatever they're doing. You know what? If that's a hazardous,
I don't think we should be pumping fuel at
Well-
all. I mean, that's
No, that you need a special
Yeah,
pump.
that's
to
but we're not.
That's
so,
illegal.
right? So why are our?
I just thought they were going down to get some loose rigging time.
I don't know exactly what
See,
the task is going to be
this-
that they're
Okay.
going to do.
But there's too many I don't knows here where
Yeah.
you need clear direction, and I think this is, first of all, it shouldn't be there for as long as. Second of all, our sanctuaries are all there with everybody. Third of all, we should have gone to the next step. Call a company that handles this and deal with it and get it out there. Not put our employees, the town employees, in harm's way dealing with this.
May I opine?
Your special counsel.
Yes, but you want to get a company that is qualified and licensed to do something like that, because God forbid, if there's a spill, they're covered for liability.
Yeah.
We're not, and I wouldn't want to see our people or our organization placed in danger because of something that we did.
Well, the town has a whole very comprehensive procurement procedure that we all must abide by to
Right.
make sure that I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and you've got plenty of assistant town attorneys here that can, I think, help facilitate what needs to be done. But I think there's confusion here because, to my knowledge, it's a trustee-owned pier. Is it a trustee-owned pier? It's a trustee-owned pier. And
That the town towed the boat to. So I would also say to Trustee Parsons, our towing it to another facility sort of puts us too close to the line of fire. I would say,
Well,
let's find out from Councilman Bell what's going on.
Yeah.
And
You know, people are saying to me, listen, they can't tie up more than 2 hours, and obviously we're passing resolutions about commercial contractors using our piers and docks and clamping down on regulations, and when they have to notify us 24 hours before and after, because we get all types of complaints. And these folks are looking at us and going, this isn't right, guys. No. And
let's notify our council person, our go-to guy, and see what, maybe they did something today. I don't know. I texted this morning, and I didn't get any response.
I'm sure you all got the same email complaint that I got today.
I know.
Okay? And it's some people aren't so outspoken. I appreciate that. But
should we touch on the habitat? The plover.
Well, some stuff is going into exec session.
All right, let's go.
You have a extensive exec session. I just think the public discussions. I mean, the reason why I mentioned so in the public is because, just like to your point, where we're discussing people not happy with plovers in the public forum, so that they understand what the board is doing or suffering with. It's a similar situation
With the boat,
that the public's not happy about, and transparency is.
And I don't blame them. I'd be pissed too. But we also can't, like to our council's point, we can't be moving diesel around in a water body.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So realistically,
and I don't think the Coast Guard would want you to do that in a salvage operation anyway.
No.
They mandate that you get the boat out off the water and then deal with it.
well, if the Marine Patrol
I mean,
can't
yeah,
handle
there's
this,
certain protocols they have to follow.
okay. So if the Marine Patrol can't handle this, then we need to get a company that's licensed and insured.
No, they
has
need.
the
They
equipment.
need. Some of the town needs to.
Well, okay, so then our maintenance guys should be down there doing this.
I don't know. Let's see what happens at the end of the day here, and I can update you. All right.
This board we need to get better visibility on this, because we all have to answer to the public.
All right. You want to go into executive session?
Is there anybody else have anything that's absolutely pressing? Because this is a really long exec session list here. All right, so I'll make a motion to adjourn and go into exec for purposes of discussing litigation. Seconded, trustees Marin and Warner, all in favor?
All right.
Have a nice afternoon, everybody.